So welcome to another episode of Only Time Can Tell. I'm your host, Ken. And before we begin, don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so that way you get updated every time that there's a new episode. To the side of me, I have my guest, DJ Francis.
Ken, how are you?
Great, brother. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you coming out. So like I was telling you before we began rolling, what this whole podcast is basically about is trying to basically show what success looks like in its many different avenues, so that way we can help inspire our viewers, success comes in all shapes and sizes or whatever. And if you haven't found your niche yet, hopefully something that you can say, something that I can say, can help inspire those.
Absolutely.
The producers told me you go by the name of DJ Francis, and initially I thought that entailed cutting and scratching, but obviously that's not what it is. So what's the story behind that?
Well, as a child, I did want to become a DJ. I couldn't rap for the hell of it, but I actually tried the scratching and I couldn't get that either.
Right.
But DJ is just an acronym for my actual name, which I won't get into.
Right. Okay. You know what's so funny? It's funny that you said that because I had a similar story.
Okay.
I wanted to be a DJ as well, but I can only afford to buy one record. So, the scratching aspect, that takes a certain skill set, man, and I wasn't built for that or whatever.
If I can't share this, though, I was quite adapted the Pores tapes.
Okay, the Pores, right.
Yeah, the Pores tapes. I can do those quite efficiently, but as far as the scratching with the two Technique turntables and a mixer,
right,
I just couldn't get it.
Yeah,
I still marvel at this today. And then now they're so technically savvy where it's not even two turntables, it's two whatever's.
Right, yeah.
I don't get it.
Yeah, it's virtual now or whatever.
But I'm far from being a DJ.
Okay. But so you just kept the name DJ Francis or whatever?
Yeah, it works for me.
Okay. That's cool. So, all right, so if you don't mind sharing, so what is it that DJ Francis does? Like, what do you do?
Well, Ken, first of all, thank you for having me on. This is really a privilege to share about me
right.
and what I do. Today, my title is MWBE Deputy Director. I work for an agency, and an MWBE, you may ask, what does that stand for?
Right.
It's an acronym for Minority Women Business Owned Enterprise. That being said, that's what I do at this time. I assist my agency with staying compliant with the program's rules and regulations, and making sure that we help the minority community with getting contracts with city agencies.
Okay. So how would someone go about getting into that route or getting into that field or whatever? Was that something that you had long aspirations for, or is it something that you kind of was going for one thing but then settled for that? Like, how does that?
Great question. I actually fell into the position. Working with this agency for upwards of 13 or 14 years, I started in different fields.
Okay. Payroll,
purchasing, and then I ended up in the MWBE field. It wasn't planned, it wasn't by design, but it fell into what it fell into DJ's, my professional growth.
Right.
I, for many years, have worked at different industries, different industries. And this one just happened to open up before me, and I walked through that door, and I've learned it. I've honed it, and I've become quite proficient at it.
Right.
It wasn't something that was planned.
Right.
It was just something that was really ironic, or it was really funny. I was walking past a certain individual's office, and they said, "DJ, can you come in for a minute?" And I said, "Yes." And they said, "Listen, I got an opportunity. Would you be interested?" And it was just at a time in my professional growth where I said, "Is this it?
Right.
Is this the last move?"
Right.
Working in my present position for the last 7 years. And it was time for me to make an upward move or a lateral move.
Right.
That being said, this opportunity became available, and I jumped into it. And I've been rocking and rolling with it for the last 7 years.
Okay. All right. That's good. What would you say is one of the more rewarding aspects of your job?
Another great question. The job entails helping minorities with getting contracts. with city agencies. So a very rewarding piece is when I'm able to help a minority, such as a woman-owned enterprise or a black-owned enterprise or a Hispanic-owned enterprise, get that contract that they so want, so they can further along their businesses, and make them grow. Because as you know, right now, the bigger, larger companies are really just taking everything they can because they have the structure to do so. These smaller groups, they have a hard time at it. So that's why this program has been set up by the mayor to aid with the minority community and getting contracts with agencies.
Okay, so for the most part, so these are basically businesses for women that are already established, or maybe like businesses for people trying to get off the ground, like.
And I'll go back to one of your earlier questions. There is an agency that oversees this particular program. They're called SBS, which is Small Business Services.
Right.
And they have a website where anybody who's interested in, meets the certain requirements to becoming a minority business-owned enterprise, they can review the requirements and actually fill out an application to become certified.
Okay.
So that's something that you can clearly just Google, MWBE certification. A website will come up. You review the requirements. If you fall into that criteria, and the three of them that come off the top of my head, if you are classified or recognized as a minority, such as Afro-American, Hispanic, Indian, Asian, or if you are a woman and actually have a business since within New York City or one of the outer counties for over a year, these are just a few requirements that would identify you or help you become an NWB certified.
Okay. So was this something that you had to go to school for? And if you did go to school, how has that helped you in terms of your level of success and what you're doing in business right now?
Another great question. School, my education really helped me in my growth in my profession. But for this particular role, no. As I shared with you just off camera before this filming, I did just acquire my bachelor's in public affairs. And I'm very proud of that because I had took off a 30-year layoff.
Wow.
Basically back in the 80s when I went to school right out of high school.
Right.
It was great and dandy and everything, but I didn't apply myself the way I should have.
All right, before you finish, let that be a lesson, guys. It's never too late. If you start something, you could always go back and finish. It's a testament.
Absolutely, and I couldn't say it any better. After a 30-year layoff, I went back to school and I did the damn thing. I put together 4 years and I was able to acquire my bachelor's in public affairs. It aids me in the position because it gives me a little bit more knowledge and things I didn't have before, before I got into this role. But what really aided me on this professional growth is all the different jobs that I've had.
Right. So the experience.
Absolutely, absolutely. I've worked for so many different agencies, so many different industries, and they all in some form or fashion aid me today.
Right.
In being the professional that I am today.
Okay.
I'm very fortunate, very fortunate.
So in your current role, what was one of the challenges that you might have experienced?
Honestly, believing in myself that I could actually do it.
Right.
As we get older, you kind of slow down.
Right.
And you wonder, can I still do this?
Yeah.
Can I do it? But
Yeah.
I can.
Right.
I do it on a daily basis. The challenges that I face right now is just staying current with the new rules and regulations that govern this particular program.
Right.
Making sure that I stay current and that I'm able to share these rules and regulations with the community and to aid them in their process.
Right.
And just being held accountable, and also coming up with some innovative ideas that will aid not just the agency but the minority as well.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. What was the field you would say that you've always wanted to be in? Was this the current field that you're in right now? Was that what you aspired to, or?
No.
I mean, we said. Sorry to cut you off. You did say you wanted to be a DJ. That ship has sailed.
Yeah.
So what was your plan B?
My plan B, actually, coming up, I always wanted to be a pilot
Okay.
I think a lot of kids always wanted to be a pilot, wanted to fly a plane.
Right.
So I aspired to be a pilot. I actually took a test for aviation in high school, which you may know.
Okay.
It was a very hard test back in those days, and I passed. But it came to my attention, in order to be a pilot, you had to have 20/20 vision.
Right.
As you can see, I wear glasses. I do not have 20/20 vision, so that wasn't a good move for me, so
Right.
I fell back from that. I ended up going into a Catholic school. So yeah, that's what I did as far as school goes. What did I want to do after the pilot thing fell through? Computers.
Computers.
I've
Okay.
always been a computer geek.
Right.
I've always been fascinated with what computers do, pressing buttons, enter. I didn't have no problem with that, and then excelled in that at a high level.
Right.
It helped me in my professional growth as well, because a lot of times I would get hired for clerical work or accounting work. It all dealt with computers.
Right.
I had no problem with that.
Okay.
I can learn whatever software you put me in front of very quickly and move forward with it.
Right.
So that's why I ended up in New York Institute of Technology for computer tech.
Did you
computer
really?
Science,
Wow,
For
okay.
computer science, but I didn't finish.
Right.
But computers was my first love, so that aids me in my present position right now. You know, I do a lot of spreadsheets and dealing with a lot of different databases.
Right.
So the fact that I'm computer literate, very, very helpful.
So that works for you. Okay, great. So before you started working at your current job, what were you doing before then?
Everything. I did it all. As I've shared already, I've worked in multiple agencies, not agencies, but industries.
Right.
I parked cars, I transported cars, I drove cabs. As far as in the financial district, I've worked with some Fortune 500 companies as operation managers. I've been accounts payable, accounts receivables. I've been collections.
Right.
I've done it all.
You've done it
Payroll. And my forte was working with temp agencies.
Okay.
And that's how I got a lot of my experience.
Through temp agency.
Temp agencies. Back in the 80s and the 90s, I worked at various sites.
Right.
And I picked up this and that, and it all aided me today.
Okay.
And I'll share about this. One place I worked that was, I worked 6 months before 9/11.
Oh, wow.
The 40th floor at Morgan Stanley as a clerk.
At one of the towers? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
As a clerk in their garnishment department.
Okay.
And I got experience there, but that assignment ended abruptly, and unfortunately, thank God, and 6 months later, 9/11 happened.
Happen. Right. So if you don't mind me asking, so when you were working, especially when you were doing all these jobs or whatever, like what would a typical hour, what would the typical amount of hours be in a week that you would work?
Well, when I left college, my wife would tell you, I was very adept at working multiple jobs.
Right.
I even did security work. I'd work security for a few hours, and I would park cars or whatever. But it depends on the job.
Right.
You know, if I wasn't working 2 jobs and I was working with maybe a Fortune 500 company, I'd be sitting at a desk, messing around with some spreadsheets, posting payments to a ledger, doing some accounts payable stuff, accounts receivable stuff, answering the phone.
Right.
Just doing whatever was asked of me. That was one of the things that really made me a success in my profession, is the fact that I never really said no.
Okay.
You know, if an employee told me, Dave, I need you to do this, absolutely.
Okay.
You know, really never, I just did it all.
Right.
I was a team player.
But I guess what I was asking, and I'll get to the reason and why I'm asking this, but would you say like your typical work week was 40 hours, or was it oftentimes more than 40 hours?
Often more times, more.
Right.
Because I was into that dollar.
Okay.
I wanted that money.
Now, and the reason why I was asking that, because one of the things that I've heard, you know, from different people who preach, you know, success online, they say that, you know, that especially like as a young man or whatever, you definitely want to do more than 40 hours a week. Like,
Absolutely.
you know, if you want to basically, you know, if your money isn't where it's supposed to be, you shouldn't be working anything less than 60 hours a week or whatever.
Absolutely.
You know, especially if you're young. You know, so if you're only working 40 hours a week talking about, oh man, yeah, I ain't got it, my pockets is looking a little light. Some would argue that that's you being lazy. You know, you got to get out there, you got to hustle or whatever, take multiple jobs, you know, just keep, you know, on the grind or whatever, or chopping that wood or whatever. And that's something obviously that you would do for short term or whatever. But like you said, that aided you because it gave you a lot of exposure into like a lot of different things. So as you get older, whatever the case may be, now you can find yourself into like a type of career or a type of job where, you know, now you can basically deal with this, you can deal with that. Right, you know.
You're absolutely right, Ken. Early in my professional career, I did multiple jobs, as I shared. You know, I even messengered. Messengering was my first job. I did messaging, security. I worked it together. So yes, I was definitely doing 50 to 60 hours a week, without no doubt.
Right.
Always on my grind, always about the paper, and it aided me to the point right now. Whereas now, I don't have to do overtime.
Right.
You know, I may, because I may have a project that needs to get done. Like this weekend, I did some work.
Right.
I didn't have to, but I did it because you know what? I'm all about completing the project.
Right.
All about completing the task.
Yeah.
But for the most part, now I work 7 hours because I put my grind in many years ago,
Right.
and I said I did a good hard day's work.
Right.
And
right.
I may do an extra little bit here and there when I have to, but I don't have to.
Exactly. That's dope. All right, so since you've been like a jack of all trades, you've been working hard, you've been grinding, you know, grinding your axe or whatever, chopping wood, you know, putting in all these hours. Before COVID, what would you say a typical day looked like for you?
I get up early in the morning. I'm an early riser, especially now that my kids are older now and they're self-sufficient.
Right.
I was able now to not have to worry about taking one of my kids to school. I would just be able to get up maybe 6 in the morning, get to work by 8, and I wouldn't have to be there till 9.
Oh, wow.
So I'm always a very timely person.
Right.
My time and attendance is impeccable.
Okay.
I have a multitude of time to take off because I go to work.
Right.
You know, and I'm fortunate enough where I'm not sickly, so I have some sick time. There are people in the agencies, unfortunately, they don't have none of that. You know, sometimes they hear about, you got that much time?
Right.
I don't got nothing. That's because I go to work. I work.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and I make sure I'm there on time, and I do my whole 7 hours, and I get it done.
Okay.
So what is a typical day? I get up early in the morning, definitely get my coffee before I hit my desk. I take my first sip at my desk, and then I start grinding. I have power hours during my workday. My power hour is my morning hour. From 8 to 10 o'clock, boom, I'm hitting it hard. Da-da-da-da, email, spreadsheets, blah, 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 answering calls. And then I taper off a little bit, you know, just a little slow down, whatever. And then I pick it up again after lunch. You know, I have a cup of coffee, and by 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock when I was working 9 to 5, by 4 o'clock, I get power, I get hit up again. I'm like, damn, I want to boom, 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 boom. People are like, they're watching the clock. But no, I'm ready to do some more work.
Right.
And then sometimes I'll find myself when I'm supposed to leave at 5 o'clock, I'm engrossed in some project that it'll take me to 6 or 7 o'clock.
Right. Right.
So a part of my success is the fact that I'm very timely, and I will do whatever it takes and take whatever amount of time it takes to get it done.
Now, you said something pretty interesting. You said you're slated to start at 9, but yet you would get there at 8.
Absolutely.
Why would you do that?
Because I'm an early riser.
Yeah.
Why just sit there in the house and looking at the ceiling, waiting to go? You know, I got to deal with traffic. I drive to work and all this and that. No, I'll get there early. I'm never late.
Right.
And I have a flex time where it'll allow you to be late for an hour or so before you actually have to, punch in.
Right.
I never use my flex time because I'm always there before my time.
Before your time, right. You know, it's so funny because I know, especially now that we're coming out of COVID, but I know like my son was homeschooling or whatever, and the challenge that I was trying to get him to understand is if they told him he had to log on at 12:30, you don't wait to 12:30 to log in. Like, you got to be ready to go at 12:30. So I've been finding out, like, it seems like with the younger kids, that whole concept of time, like, they don't get that. Like, you know.
I don't understand that. Even during COVID when we started working from home, if I started at 8 o'clock, I was logged in at 7.
Right.
You know? And another thing I found that I did when I was home, I never had the TV on, and I never sat on my bed.
Right.
These are things that are not in your office.
Right.
One day, I'll never forget it, and I still talk about this to this moment, to this day. During COVID, when we were working from home, I sat on my bed one afternoon, and I said, oh my gosh. And I laid back, and I said, never again. you know, and I
Just threw your whole thing off,
It
right?
just threw me off, you know. So I'm fortunate enough when I get up, I have a desk and an office chair,
Right.
and I sit in that and I stay in that until
Right.
the end of the day.
Right.
And I don't turn on the TV.
So, and that's a good segue to my next question. So, being that you had to work from home, what would you rather? Would you rather being in the office or?
Right now, we're in a hybrid schedule, and it's awesome.
Right.
I'm actually working in the office 2 days out of the week, 3 days home.
Okay.
I find that to be so cool.
Right.
It's not going to last. It's not going to stay that way. It unfortunately will increase
Right.
as COVID slacks off, as it has.
Right.
We probably will get back to a full schedule in the office sometime before the end of the year, let's say.
Yeah, because I know they said the city's opening up July
It's opening up
1st.
again. Yes. That being said, I'm 2 days in, 3 days out,
Right.
and I love it.
Yeah.
I find it to be so cool, so very relaxing.
Okay.
But it's not going to stay that way.
All right, so that brings me into the next question. So, you know, with the whole COVID and people working from home, which would you rather? Would you rather go to the office or working from home?
I would like to do the schedule I'm working right now. I consider it like a hybrid schedule. And that consists of me going into the office 2 days out of the week,
Oh, wow.
and I'm home 3 days out of the week.
Okay.
I wouldn't mind going into the office 3 days out of the week, and I'm working from home 2 days out of the week, Monday
Right.
and Friday. It's awesome, you know, because you get the best of both worlds.
Right.
You know, you get to dress up 3 days out the week, you know, boom, go in, so you look, I still got this, I got this
Right.
dress shirt, got these nice slack shoes, all that stuff, everything's matching. You know, socks match with my belt, all that
Right.
good stuff. And then those other 2 days, you're home. You
Right.
sit in your jockey, and you're chilling in your bedroom, and you're kicking it out. You're doing what you do.
Right.
You know, I love that. And you have your little meetings. It's funny now, you can have meetings where you got your little shorts on, but you got a dress shirt on.
Right. Yeah. So now, do you find like when you go into the office, I mean, is things kind of like slowly but surely getting back to normal, or is it still kind of, all right, we got to make sure we keep everyone separated? And
It's getting back to status quo.
Okay.
Normal stuff going on in there. Masks are starting to come off a little bit.
Right.
People, you know, they do have partitions set up in certain cubicles and
Okay.
offices and things of that nature. There are some rules and regulations that you have to adhere to, you know, for people in the elevator, things of that nature.
Right.
But slowly but surely, all that's going to start to slack off, I see, to some extent.
Right.
But right now, it's been pretty cool.
Okay.
Because I'm only going in 2 days a week.
Right. All right, cool. All right, so now you said that you enjoyed and you was able to maximize the whole working from home, the hybrid schedule or whatever. How about any of your peers? Do you feel like your peers might have embraced it the same way, or did they struggle with that whole transition and going back and forth?
It's a great question, Ken. I really believe that this whole working from home thing has hurt certain individuals. You've got to be disciplined. You know,
Right.
you got to have some rules and regulations to the whole damn thing. And
Right.
I think in some instances there have been personnel that, because we were no longer there to maybe manage them in an in-person role,
Right.
It has hurt their work efforts. And that's unfortunate.
Right, because some people need to be micromanaged.
Yeah, it's
Right.
unfortunate. It really
Right.
is. I myself, I have to say, you know, I've looked at my work efforts working from home versus working from the office, and I really found that I worked a little bit more efficiently.
You're more
from
productive,
home.
right?
You know why? Because there's less of distractions. You know, when you're in a large office setting, you have certain individuals that'll come into your office or cubicle. Hey, what's going on?
Right.
Blah, 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 blah. Or you might get up and go say, hey, what's going on? Blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And that's taken away from your work.
Right.
And when I'm home, okay, well, you can do that too. You can get on the phone, your cell phone, call somebody. Your wife might come into the office, your office,
Right.
hey, what's going on, whatever. But no, I found that I was working much more efficiently, and it really surprised the hell out of me.
Right. Right.
You know, I really thought I needed to be in the office to be more efficient, but it wasn't necessary.
Really?
Yeah, well, not for me, not for my role. Let me
Right.
just keep it on myself.
Right.
But I do see
There's some people who struggle.
some people did struggle.
Yeah, because I know for me, because I work from home also, and I know for me, one of the challenges that I had is I've always felt that home should be home and work should only be done in the office. And now that since there's no office, work. I mean, now I have to work and, at home and do home at home. And for me, that not being able to have that difference of space kind of, makes a personality type like me a little, it's harder for me to adjust. I still adjust because I still come from that old school effort of, you got to be disciplined, you got to do what you got to do. But, for me, like I said, I just like having the separation of space. I want the work and then I want the home, and I never wanted the two to kind of like mix.
I can definitely identify with that. I actually forced myself back into the office way before we were told to come back into the office. I got tired of being in the house.
Right.
Day in, day out. And so I actually instituted my own schedule going back into the office early this year before we were mandated to come back in.
Okay.
Only because I knew that my particular office was a ghost town. There was nobody else there.
Right.
And I needed mobility.
Right.
So I got up and started going in maybe Monday or Tuesday or whatever just for the day.
Right.
Because because like you said, that separation between work and your office or whatever, between your home and your office,
right,
is paramount.
Right.
You need that.
Right.
You need that separation.
Right. Yeah.
And so I had to go back to the office a lot sooner.
And did you have to take public transportation, or just you drove in? Or?
I'm very fortunate, thank you, Jesus. I drive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So you didn't have to deal with the insanity.
I didn't have to deal with the insanity of riding the trains and all that other craziness.
I got you. So, what you currently do, how does it affect the community? How does it help the community?
Well, it's all about the minorities. And as you know, New York City, I don't know the exact number, it's full of minorities. You have different ethnicities such as Afro-Americans, Asian, you have Hispanics, Indians. These are all recognized minorities in this program where we're geared to identify them and help them with their businesses. It's all about helping them, and women as well.
Right.
It's all about helping them get those contracts.
Okay.
Those $20,000 contracts, those upwards of $500,000 contracts.
Right.
That so often go to bigger companies.
Right.
That's the key function of the program.
Okay.
Making sure that they get 30%.
Right.
Of the contract.
So, and I don't know if you even know this or whatever, but now when you say the minorities, do you have the statistics on the group of people that are usually utilizing?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a disparity that's been done by an oversight committee that identifies these numbers that you're speaking about. I can't speak to them during this particular cast, but there are numbers that govern, that fuel our agency and who we look to help assist.
Right. Because and the reason why I asked that, because I live in New York City, and if you go to certain areas, you kind of see like certain groups, thriving business-wise. Mm-hmm. And, the question always asked, or, the question always dawns in the back of my mind, how come these groups aren't, who live in the community, how come they're not taking advantage of the opportunities of serving their actual communities? Mm-hmm. Whereas you got like all these other people coming in, just basically, it seems like extracting the resources, from the neighbors or from the people in the community.
That's why it's very important that we get out more information regarding this program, because a lot of vendors or companies, they don't know about it.
Right.
They have no idea that there is a program that's geared to helping them get that contract. Right. Now mind you, everybody that gets New York City certified, they may not get a contract immediately just because you're certified. Right. Because there has to be a need for the services or goods that you provide. Right. Right. It's unfortunate there are so many different rules and regulations that govern this program. For instance, just to give you an example, like office supplies. Your company may supply office goods and things like that, and you're like, oh, hey, I can supply your company with office supplies. Unfortunately, we are mandated or required to utilize a required contract that goes to another vendor. you know? So in that case, the minority loses out.
Yeah.
You know, but not in every case it's like that.
Right.
So, you know, it's just all about supply and demand, I guess you might say, to some extent, and whether or not we need what you're supplying.
Right, yeah.
There's no other,
You know, and then, like I said, and then, you know, what you do and the minorities that you help, I mean, do you find that the information is accessible to the masses, or is it kind of like, you know, people have to dig and search in order to...
It's all right. It's right there.
It's all right there. Okay.
I just helped a lady just earlier today. Sent her a link that I told her you can Google it.
Right.
NWBE. And the NWBE program is not just in New York City. It's all over.
Right.
It's in all different, it's across the country.
Okay.
You know, it just might be a little bit different here and there, but it is something that is available in all different states, as far as I know.
Okay.
I don't know if it's in all 52 states or 50 states, but it is.
But it is, okay. Here's an age-old question. If you could do it all over again, what choices would you have made differently, if any?
Another really great question, Ken. It begins with my education. It begins with the choices I made when I was in school. I would have applied myself. I would have continued to apply myself when I was in college.
Right.
You know, when I left St. Adelphi's, my first 8th grade or Catholic school, and then went to Cardinal Hayes.
Cardinal Hayes?
My claim to fame.
Right.
You know, let me tell you about that. Cardinal Hayes got me jobs.
Right.
You know, I would mention in an interview that I was a Cardinal Hayes graduate. Oh, you're a Hayes graduate? Next thing I know, I was starting the next day. You know, so education is key.
Right.
Are you a Hayesman?
No, actually, I almost went to Hayes, actually. But then my father was just like, well, why would you want to go there when you could go to this public school? And what it basically came down to is money.
Oh, yeah.
Because they only gave me a partial scholarship for Hayes. So.
Gotcha. Well, I was very fortunate that my mother saw fit to pay that tuition.
Right.
And got me through that 4 years. And I was fortunate enough to get through it, because it's not an easy task to get a Hayes diploma.
Right.
But nonetheless, back to what you asked, what would I do different? I would definitely apply myself once I left Hayes, continue to apply myself in my college that I attended, New York Institute of Technology. I made some bad choices there. And when I left, I dropped out after 2.5 years. That's when you said my life kind of like paused.
Right.
My professional growth paused. Because basically, I kept on getting jobs, but I was not excelling to the point that I needed to. And there was a lot of other extracurricular activities that, you know, played into that.
Right.
And that's a whole nother podcast. But nonetheless, what I would do differently, I would definitely surround myself with more like-minded people, you know, who are all hell-bent on getting that degree. And helping each other to that degree, to that end. And I think that right there would have been the beginning to the point where I would have probably got that job where I'd be retiring from right now.
Right.
Instead of just starting in my job 13, 14 years ago.
Right. See, and you know what? It's funny because the reason why I like to ask that question, what would you do differently, is because that's kind of like a trick question, because I don't believe that there's anything such as a bad choice or bad decisions. It's all about lessons, you know? And had it not been for those lessons, would you be the person that you are today? You know? Because the person that I see today is rich with experience, you know? So, you know, and with experience comes wisdom. You know, you're married. You have grown children that you took care of. So that alone is success in so many different ways, which, because it might have come easy to you, it's easy to take for granted. But like I said, you know, I don't think that, you know, from people going to jail or, you know, people getting terminal diseases or whatever, those are all lessons or whatever. And those are all, I believe, those are all opportunities, I think, for the human condition to really see how strong we really are, you know? So, like I said, you know, that was more of a trick question because I'm real curious to see more of like your psyche behind how you answer that, you know? But like I said, you couldn't be here if you wasn't already someone great, you know what I'm saying? So.
Appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you know.
And what you said is so true. The lessons, I learned some serious lessons with everything that I went through.
Right.
After I left tech. It was a lot, and it aided me in who I am today.
Right.
You know, and I'm very thankful for it. But I can't discount that. I wouldn't have to go through all those periods,
Right.
if I had just applied myself. If I'd have went to class instead of going to play spades.
Right.
Okay?
I got you.
Because I became a spade proficient player in school. That was my thing. To the point where right now I don't play spades no more because I'm good.
Yeah.
You know, and people want to play for fun. I was serious about my spades, okay? And they want to sit there and crosstalk and all this. And no, you don't play spades like that. Anyway, I don't want to go there, bro. But nonetheless, yeah. So I learned how to drink and play spades and all that other stuff in college. And those things didn't aid me.
Well, I mean, you're not doing it now, so.
You know,
all right.
So there it is. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. So, is there any advice that you would have, you know, for our viewers or the youth watching us? Say, if there's one thing that you could basically tell them to help inspire them or, you know, help them to make a better decision, what would that one thing be?
Well, it's real easy. Stay in school. Get that education. One of the things that really aided me in my growth is the fact that I had a really good education.
Right.
You know, I went to Catholic school all my life, and I listened, and I learned. I'll never forget, in the many years after I left these institutions or these schools, people used to always say, why do you talk that way?
Right.
Why do you talk white? It's not talking white. It's proper English.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I got an education, and it aided me in my growth.
Right.
So education is key,
Yeah.
fundamental piece in anyone's growth. And learn how to get somebody in your life who you can talk to. You know, don't hold stuff in.
Right.
You know, because if you hold it in, it may come out at a bad time in a negative fashion. So it's always good to have some good friends who are with like minds, positive-minded friends, who you can actually talk and share everything with and grow in a positive manner. That's all I got. And also, you know, I don't make this run. I have a God in my life. All right? I believe in Lord Jesus Christ. And without that being said, I'm just so happy about every damn thing. You know, he's put everything in front of me. He brought me here, he brought me there, and he's going to bring me through it. I'm just really happy about that.
Okay. So where can people find you on social media? Are you on social media?
I actually left social media a few months ago or whatever, taking a break because, you know, I'm in a transitional phase again within my own personal life, professional life, and things of that nature.
Right.
And I found that, you know, certain social media sites were starting to be a little bit more time consuming,
Right.
and things of that nature. So I love social media. But if you want to get some information on the MWB community, just Google it. You'll get all the information that you want. And I wish you the best in your businesses and in everything that you might be trying to do.
Yeah, DJ, man, thank you. I appreciate your time. It's been dope. I feel enlightened. I got to start grinding a little bit harder myself. So I can see the stage and see the successes that you are experiencing. All right, so that's going to do it for this week, guys. Thank you for joining us. Once again, I'd like you to thank my guest, DJ Francis. I'm your host, Ken, at Only Time Can Tell. Before we leave, don't forget to share, like, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you can keep getting updated on our new videos or whatever. But thanks again, guys. Peace.
Peace.
I hope that you enjoyed the video. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you will always get an alert when a new video drops.